He's got big balls.
Shall we begin?
I'm a kid, so I call it KFAN.
PA and Charch. 9 to noon.
That's a great setup, Bob.
Time for 2 more? Good stuff.
Thinking of those days gone by now.
Hey, Nord.
So music and
Hey, he thinks he's back from vacation, but he's not back from vacation. I mean, over the last 35 minutes, the co-host of the Friday Football Feast has positioned himself in a broken chair and became flustered and threw a mini tantrum.
Is that the chair that Leo broke yesterday?
I think so. Left his wallet at home.
Yeah, true.
And we've had reprinting of something terrorism. So I'm not sure the co-host truly is back from vacation, but welcome back from vacation, Paul Charchian. And it's great to have you back on the Friday Football Feast.
Good morning. And I missed you guys.
Aww.
I did. I got to listen to some shows while we were on the road. We had long drives to Utah and back. It was sad not to be able to contribute. And there was so much happening, especially 3 weeks ago around the NFL. The whole Kirk thing went down around me. That was tough. Just all of the stuff that's happened in 3 weeks. The Vikings, my favorite team. It's a materially different team today than it was 3 weeks ago.
Correct.
There's just, you miss being part of the cycle, right? Following the day-to-day minutia. Can't say I necessarily missed the Wild all that much, but other than that,
hey,
I know that was sort of a cheap shot.
Yeah, they won last night.
They did win last night. I know.
Well, since you brought it up, Charch, may I ask? Since you've and part of this, the clipping penalties with the wallet and the chair, that's part of getting back from vacation.
It is.
Reminds you in some ways what you're already. You can say you missed us, but you already missed vacation. Because you joined me, and I can't remember what day it was. I think it was Wednesday, as free agency was about to unfold. And you were in an emotional spot. You were frustrated. You were irritated with Kirk going to Atlanta. And I'm curious, as you've visited these beautiful monuments, you've walked around and really sniffed some fresh air of the beauty of nature over the last couple of weeks. Have you changed emotionally? Are you updated? Have you evolved in terms of your thinking regarding Kirk going away? Because you were mad.
Yeah.
You were pissed.
And then it came up like $100 million on the guarantee, the Birchie.
So has anything changed mentally for you?
A little has. I did not think of Kirk more than about 5 times in 3 weeks.
Jeez.
And normally it's like 5 times in an hour.
Who are you?
So, I think my heart has been hardened by this whole process. It feels weird. It feels different. I still think my core take that I gave to you, Nordo, which was I wouldn't have re-signed Kirk either, but if I were Kwesi, I would have had a better backup plan ready to go than Sam Darnold, and that I continue to be worried that we're in a no man's land for draft picks. And so that was my core. That was the core supposition I gave you 3 weeks ago, and I'm basically sticking to that.
After that diatribe, Nordo and I now need vacations.
I always love that one.
You just earned a day right there.
I mean, here, the NFL draft-related excitement with the crumbs that are being delivered on seemingly a daily basis, whether it's Kevin O'Connell joining 9 to noon on Tuesday, and we, at about 9:47, we're going to play back clips of what he said about Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, and Jaden Daniels. And we'll get your analysis on that. So, more crumbs. PFT, Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. There was an item this morning, it's still there, where at the LSU Pro Day, Brian Kelly coach of the LSU Tigers, was talking about Jaden Daniels playing in offenses, and he's skinny, but he's going to be okay, and he's tall, and he runs like Lamar, working out well for Lamar, and he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL for Washington. Came right out and said it. For Washington. It's a crumb.
He has reason to believe. And he's probably not wrong, by the way. I mean, that's the odds are he's going to go number 2. The Vikings had some possible way to get to number 2.
Yeah.
I feel awfully good about that.
So, with your trip and some pictures that yours truly saw from your wife, Roxy, tell us about extremely rare thunder sneat a couple of Sundays ago at the Petrified Forest National Park. It was a really cool video on Twitter.
I had so much fun at Petrified Forest National Park.
What is it?
So, the premise is there's this huge area. It's 1,000 acres, many thousand acres, and you drive it, and then you jump out of your car at various points because there are million-year-old trees that are stone. They have been fully petrified into stone. This is in northern Arizona, to give you a sense of where we are geographically for this.
Right.
Now, it's a little bit otherworldly anyway, but we pull in, and it's right around 32 degrees. And as we're walking through these areas where you've got these fallen trees that have been turned to stone, Nordo, this happened.
Oh, yeah.
Thunder sneed at Petrified Forest National Park. Thunder and thick, heavy sneed. The likes of which
Who the hell's
this
talking?
certified sneet spotter has
happened?
never seen before. Amazing. Once in a lifetime opportunity.
Why are you
Thunder
talking?
sneed.
But why were you talking like that?
Because I was
weird.
walking at a good clip, and I'm being pelted by sneed.
Thunder sneed.
I was in thunder sneed and lightning. So imagine it's 32 degrees.
Yeah.
It's pouring sleet. I don't know if it pours sleet. It's pouring sleet. It's thundering.
It's pounding
and
sleet.
Lightning shooting across the sky.
You made it.
And I was in Petrified Forest.
You made it.
It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Do you think
so
that
cool.
in a different life chart, you could have been one of those Weather Channel on-site reporters, just out of breath? Just the noise, the sound, the din of the background overtaking your voice. You're exhausted, exasperated. You might get blown away.
Yeah.
You could have been a great Weather Channel on-site reporter.
Holding on to a metaphorical pole somewhere
That's
in
right.
Florida
Yeah, a
during
stop
a
sign.
hurricane.
Yes.
And you're completely horizontal with that weird voice.
And Roxy's off camera throwing buckets of water on him. She's got the fan working.
No,
I do love it when they get busted for making the weather look worse than it is. Like the guy's talking about all the flooding and everything and how he's waist deep in water, and then in the background, like, kids are playing. And they're all fine, and people are walking in one ankle.
Well, that
deep water.
video, and I'm glad you provided the audio. You guys are playing fast. Zion National Park, specifically Scout Lookout. I mean, the mountainous range was unbelievable.
So Scout Lookout. Okay, so Zion's got about 6-7 separate areas that are all just breathtaking and need to be experienced firsthand.
So this is not a Wolves Pelicans playoff preview here. This is a
No, not
national
that
park.
kind of Zion,
Okay,
no.
I got it now.
Although almost as arduous and almost as difficult to tackle as Zion Williamson. Scout's Lookout, you start at the base at the bottom of Zion. It is 4 miles of uphill switchbacks to get to the top of this gigantic mountain.
Please define switchback.
Switchback is that thing where it S curves up the side of the mountain. If you look at me over here, Paul, it does this up the side of the mountain. You know,
a snake.
That's a switchback.
Okay,
so you got to walk it, and it's 4 miles, and it is steep grade, and it was a ton of work. Roxy and I get to the top, and we're feeling very proud of ourselves for having made it up 4 miles. And we get to the top, hands on our knees. There's light air at this point. We're up, we've gone up about 1 mile. hands on our knees, huffing and puffing. And there's old ladies. There's 8-year-old kids running around having fun up there. And I'm like, what? I'm not that bad of shape. I'm dying up here. Yeah, here's this 70-year-old lady. She seems to be just eating her lunch. She seems totally fine. But it was amazing. Zion is uniquely gorgeous. I've been to the Grand Canyon.
Why don't you put your pants back on, Slappy?
Zion is astounding. And you sit in it and you see these views. You're like, this isn't America. Mm-hmm. This is the same country that has Minnesota, almost dead flat for most of the state. It's like, how is this even here? How is this not on the moon? It's so gorgeous.
Consider the mountainous range and the way they're shaped and everything that goes into them. And then think thousands, if not tens of thousands of years ago, they were not in that original form. So like floods, weather, the decrepitation, whatever, splits, with water now coming down the middle. I mean, just to imagine what they potentially were to what they are now and what went into it. Fascinating.
Yeah, let me give you the most fascinating thing I can tell you about that, Paul. So a river has carved most of this, much like the Grand Canyon, has carved most of this through Zion.
Yeah.
The river, and when you're at the base of it, you're looking up like a mile on either side of you, or the cliffs in Zion. The river eroded a paper's width, the width of a piece of paper per year.
Wow.
And you're down 1 mile. To give you a sense of how old the earth is, it took millions of years to get all of this fully developed the way it is now.
Right.
Millions of years at a paper's width of erosion per year, and you're down a mile. It's just staggering. Words don't do it justice. Pictures don't do it justice. If you can, go to Zion because it's amazing.
Did you perchance get lucky or propositioned at any rest stops?
This show is naughty and might make you a potty mouth.
There was some stall tapping involved.
Stall tapping?
Yeah.
Okay, how can I not put that in the rap now, Charch? My goodness with that.
Yeah, tap, rap.
Stall tapping?
Yep, stall tapping.
Stall tapping at Stuckey's.
All right. Well, it's great to have you back. And so is the proper read on Wolves ownership and this potentially ugly bit? The value of the team has increased exponentially since the group got together 3 years ago.
Yep.
And now Boss Taylor wants to stay majority owner, and the team is on the rise and wants 60% of that too. So, I mean, is it? I mean, how much because without knowing the parameters of what the majority owner or what people can or can't do contractually makes it difficult to advance this in my estimation. But that seems to be the case from afar. And I mean, if Rodriguez or Laurie come out and say, this is crap, you invest prognosticating something like this takes place, and that's why we invest. And now it's just a no, and we didn't miss any deadlines either. If that happens, it's on now.
Well, it probably is on. So here's what we believe we know. Glenn Taylor gave, and maybe mistakenly, gave Laurie and A-Rod years to make this payment. I mean, usually these transactions happen in 4 months, right? You find a qualified buyer, you go through the diligence on the buyer, they pay the money, and this thing's over. Now, so I think key mistake number one was Taylor gave them years to pay this thing off incrementally so they could afford it because Laurie and A-Rod didn't have the money. So Glenn has acknowledged the value of the team has gone up dramatically. And it has. It's probably doubled from the $1.9 billion that he had agreed to sell it to.
Yep.
Laurie and A-Rod for to what it is probably net worth now is closer to $4 billion, in part because the team's a lot better, in part because just these teams always get more valuable. So now this is complicated because it's very easy to just go, well, Taylor's being greedy. But there's more to it, Paul. Taylor's not the only owner of the Timberwolves. He's the majority owner, but he has to answer to the other owners. The other owners are going, whoa, wait a minute. is there a mechanism by which we could double our money by putting this back on the open market for $4 billion instead of $1.9 billion? And A-Rod and Lori have given them the mechanism by failing to meet the deadline. So they failed to meet the deadline. Now Taylor has to go. Taylor looks at the minority owners and says, okay, if we want to maximize our profit, we have to hold them to the letter of the law. And if Taylor doesn't, the minority owners of the Timberwolves could sue Taylor because Taylor's got a written mechanism for ending the deal.
Jeez.
And he's doing it. And he's probably 100, if what he is saying is true. And I think Taylor, whatever you think about Taylor, and I know he's a Republican, and I know people don't like him, whatever. I think he's a pretty straight shooter. I don't think he outright lies about many things. I can't think of anything. I think he's being straight with us when he says that they missed these deadlines.
Why would somebody not like somebody for their political stance? I mean,
hello?
like blindly not like somebody you don't know. Because
do you remember Kirk and his decision on vaccine?
Okay.
Have you ever been on Twitter?
Okay.
Yeah, trust me. People hate Taylor because he is an active Republican.
Okay.
Trust me on this. So anyway, Lori and A-Rod say they had the financing ready to go, but they had a payment date in December. They extended it to March, and they didn't make their payments in December or March. So now Taylor is in a position where he's going to get sued if he holds A-Rod and Lori to the deal they had, or he'll get sued if they don't. And he's decided to side with his minority partners and the letter of the contract, which A-Rod and Lori are out of. So, yeah, I think that's the gist of it. I probably made it more confusing than it is, but what people aren't talking about enough is Taylor's got an obligation to the other owners to maximize the value, and if Lori and A-Rod missed deadlines and broke the contract, that's on them. And Taylor's got the opportunity to make double the money for himself and the other current investors, and he's taking it.
Can you repeat the part of this stuff where you said all about the things?
Nords.
Hey.
Didn't Woj drop yesterday when this whole thing broke during the Nacho 2 that Lori and or Rodriguez say all deadlines had been met?
Well, they said that they had the money, but they said they had done everything they needed to do.
Got it.
But they had it's no secret that they had not met this most recent deadline at the least.
Right.
And maybe there had been an extension in the past. So
right.
To Charch's point, that's the bit. And so if you wanted to get this deal done and you have the combination of the massive value increase to the franchise and the fact that this team's been awful for 2 decades and now it's finally good again. The owner himself yesterday admitted it, whether it was a tweet. I think John Krasinski quoted Taylor himself. He was on with Chad Hartman yesterday talking about this. He is revitalized and reinvigorated by this team. So the combination of the value going up significantly and the team's finally good again. The owner was openly saying yesterday that, and to Lori and A-Rod's credit with their statement, he does have seller's remorse. He doesn't want to let this thing go. This team's finally good. You got Ant on the verge of absolute stratospheric superstardom. The team is battling for the top seed in the West, and it's worth probably twice what he agreed to sell it for. So if that is the case, if you're A-Rod and Lori and you want to get out of town with the bag of cash, you better not miss the freaking deadline or the owners.
Right.
The owner's simply going to trigger the mechanisms available to him.
Yes.
And so whatever you think about Taylor from this is ridiculous. He agreed to a deal. Now he's backing out of it. You just gave the guy the opportunity.
Yep.
And so I assume something like this will go to arbitration. So I don't think the conversations are done on this. Woj did note that the big thing, though, is I've seen it reported on like A-Rod and Lori didn't have the money. It sounds like they did, and that, and according to Woj, and that this was more of a timing issue as they had to make that switch of capital investment groups to back them just a week and change ago. So, but in the end, if you want this thing, if you want to get the deal of a lifetime for $1.5 billion and you want to kick Glenn Taylor out the door, do it on time. Just do it on time.
Right, just meet the contractual obligations you agreed to.
Yeah.
This is weird too. Taylor told Chad Hartman yesterday he hasn't spoken to Lori in a year. What? This is the person who's buying the team, and they don't talk. They say they have pleasantries when they happen to be in the same game.
Yeah.
If they're sitting watching the same game, they'll have some pleasantries.
Right.
He said they haven't had a meaningful business conversation in over a year.
What if anything, to you learned individuals or those listening, 64686 for texting and the KFAN Bradshaw and Brian text line, also the free iHeartRadio app. If you are compelled to talk back, and maybe we'll play it back later, find the microphone, it's free, and you can be heard on this beautiful Friday. What if anything for you two resonates with like what's next? I mean, like so the team plays Denver tonight at 8:00. That's cool. The team's heading to the playoffs. That's cool. The team compensates Anthony Edwards. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Talking about ownership, division, derision, and money cuts. That ain't cool. I mean,
it's not fun.
What's next that like is compelling for you guys? Because for me, it's nothing.
You mean for the Timberwolves in particular?
Yeah,
well,
I'm talking about the ownership bid.
Oh, the ownership bid?
Yeah.
Well, nothing. This thing's now going to turn into a court battle, and it's going to be protracted and boring. And there's still Taylor says the team's not for sale, and maybe that's true. I think the team is for sale, but the asking price is now $4 billion.
Right.
Well, what's interesting too, though, is whatever it took or they didn't have or had to get over the hump, and things go sour, and people aren't talking to each other, and the whole thing, and PA can't sit next to A-Rod at Wolves games anymore.
Stop that.
In the end, they do actually have 40%.
They still own, yeah.
And so they do have a voice in that building and in this organization. So my question would be the what's next is after mediation, arbitration, et cetera. And I've kind of seen it both ways where they missed the deadline. So that's a heavy feather in the cap of Glenn. On the other side of it, they had the money and they have ultimately gotten their way to the right spots. So maybe there's an argument in their favor as well. In the end, if let's say Glenn just keeps that 40% and here we are, we move forward. I think in the end, Lori and A-Rod can ultimately find ways to sell their 20% or 40% stakes. And they're still going to walk away with a ton of cash because they've also enjoyed the massive value increase over the last 2 years for that 40% stake.
Yeah.
So in the end, Mark Lowry and the tweets, and it's a 15-year, or since I was 15, I've dreamed of owning an NBA franchise, whatever. They tried to buy the Mets like a few years ago and failed at that. So I think the idea is they want to sit in the beautiful people's seats and they think it's cool. And that's great. They have the cash and the capital to do it.
Yeah. And by the way, that's most owners of most of these. They're already uber successful. They've got multiple houses and yachts and everything else. But what money can't buy you is a professional sports team very easily. One has to be for sale. They have to pick you. You have to have incredible means.
Yep.
And then you get to be in the war room for the draft. You get to sit courtside. You get, those are the things, when you've got multiple billions of dollars, most of the world is open to you. Ownership of one of the big four teams is not.
No, it's massive.
And that's very alluring to a lot of people for the reasons Nordo was just saying. Mm-hmm. You get to do all those things that only a select, 100 people in the nation get to do.
And it's interesting, too, like Lori, maybe part of Lori, I saw a New York Post article yesterday, too. So he sold, it was Jets.com or something like that. He made his billions selling some sort of delivery service or something specifically to Walmart. So now he's got $3 billion and change. He's doing some Wonder. I think the name of the company is Wonder, and I forget what it is, e-company. And he says he's spending 100 hours a week trying to gain financing to lift that thing off. So kind of the idea is, of course he has the money. He's a billionaire, but at the same time, he's leveraging hundreds of millions of dollars to meet finance windows for these other companies that he owns. It's not like he can just write that check, right? He doesn't just have duffel bags of cash laying around to consummate deals for NBA franchises. So, battling that, he's relying on A-Rod, he's got less going on. He's just going to get J-Lo and Hollywood and everybody to just hand over all the cash to finish the thing. Clearly, there were some struggles along the way. So the whole thing's ugly. But in the end, all of them are going to get paid tons of cash, and the Wolves are still battling for the 1 seed.
And meanwhile, like Nordo said, the squad plays this evening, 8 o'clock from the Mile Get High City. They're 6.5-point underdogs, and we are in deep stretch of the NBA season. Oklahoma City is also hosting Phoenix. That's a fat one. The Twins won their home opener, and they beat the Kansas City Royals. Well done. Make that season opener 3-2.
Royce Lewis is already hurt again.
How about that?
Right. Got ahead of the curve on that one.
Yep. How about that? With a home run and a single and then a finger. And also, out Sioux Falls way, this happened.
Gophers Nelson gets it again and pops it out in front. 3 Mavericks are there to send it wide. A guy falls. Brodzinski gets it and shoots. He scores! Jackson Nelson tips it in. The Gophers lead 3-2.
And they would finish off Nebraska-Omaha and win 3-2. Jackson Nelson, who scored that goal. I think this is fantastic. He grew up, I can't remember the name of the tiny, tiny, tiny western Minnesota town. It's about 40 miles from Sioux Falls.
Fulda. Let's go Fulda.
So he just, it starts with an M. So he has a massive amount of family members and friends at that game last night in Sioux Falls, and he scores the 3rd goal. So they advance to take on Boston University. I mean, I've learned more about Boston University the last 2 or 3 days just by like looking at Twitter or looking at whatever from the college hockey world that I had no idea was transpiring. And there are two things that I think will resonate with you. One, and Mouse put me on this yesterday, captain of the 83 Wayzata Club hockey team, quite the formidable team. BU, Boston University, let's go the other way. Boston University has a freshman named Macklin Celebrini.
Wow, that's a great name.
I hadn't heard of Macklin Celebrini. I couldn't pick him out of a 2-person lineup standing next to Wayne Gretzky like three days ago. Well, now he's 17 years of age. He might be the best overall college hockey player in the game.
How is he even in college at 17?
So, well, it's they can do the USHL thing and like leave stuff, graduate early. I have no idea.
All right.
All I know is I watched him yesterday. They got this fellow freshman. I think his name's Jack Harvey. I put one of his clips on Twitter with this okey doke move that he made was unbelievably sweet. So that's who's next. This Celebrini might be the best overall player, or certainly best offensive player in college hockey. He's 17 years of age, and he plays for BU. So we get them Saturday. I think post time is 5:30. But then Mouse, I'm chatting with Mouse yesterday at CBY Track Flack. BU, a ballyhoo team, like 1, 2, or 3 in the country the entire season, shouldn't even be in this region. The reason they're not in the Springfield, Massachusetts region is because UMass is. And they didn't want to have too many. Right. So now.
Too many Boston, Massachusetts teams.
So this region doesn't get UMass, a 4 seed. It gets Celebrini. I think it's a little bit of
that doesn't seem fair.
I think it's a little bit of a flim-flam, but tomorrow at 5:30 with that game.
Is Boston College I've heard of. Yeah. I had never heard of Boston University in my life until now.
Sure you have, because in a roundabout way you've heard of the Bean Pot. You ever heard of the Bean Pot?
I don't. Are they the Boston University Bean Pot?
John Hines, coach of the Wild, played for BU.
Oh.
So, Boston College is the top seed of all of them in the college hockey tournament. They're just littered with guys coming to the NHL. They play today. But why this is big, if you were following from afar, is if the Gophers can beat Boston University tomorrow, well, then that means the Frozen Four is next, and it's at XL Energy Center.
Yeah, baby.
Tomorrow at 5:30, it's if you want an opportunity to relive this.
Here's Tafe outside the circle. Back to the captain, Leopold on net. A tip pull. To the right net. And they scored. Win. Patoli wins it for Minnesota.
That's 20-some-odd years ago at XL Energy Center. Yours truly in attendance. It was an unbelievably cool sporting event. If you want to relive this.
Here's Tafe outside the circle. Back to the captain, Leopold on net. A tip pull. To the right net. And they scored. Win. Patoli wins it for Minnesota.
Then you got to get by the Celebrini cat. with a team that shouldn't even be in our region.
Are you
It's all
going to
stacked against
broadcast
Moscow.
from the penalty box if the Gophers make it?
I'd love to.
I think you should.
The championship game, I think, is like April 13th, middle of April. All right. This is the
Why do they take
NCAA tournament basketball?
Oh, they wait for that to wrap first?
Yep, I believe so.
Bummer.
So, congratulations to Ski-U-Mah University for that thrilling victory in Sioux Falls yesterday. And thank you very much, Easter week, for listening to the Friday Football Feast. Bikes Bites around the corner, executed by Nordo. And I'm Paul Allen. Paul Charchian back in the fold, so the Friday Football Feast has gone to full strength. That's debatable.
It's Vikes Bites 9 to noon. Vikes Bites is presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. So get to the website, thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com or lifetimegrazed.com. You can shop online. You find awesome products. And guess what? It shows up at your doorstep in a box, and it's awesome. It's fantastic. Check out Matt and a Clearwater, Minnesota-born company, Thousand Hills. I want to start here. At what point in time... And it's the right topic, the quarterback topic, and it's going to persist right up probably until draft night. But at what point into the draft do we start talking about other positions? Because it is all QB all the time, but at some point we'll be addressing other positions in the draft as well. Now, before I start trying to hit you off the cuff with your favorite fifth round guards, I do want to say this, that Jadeveon Clowney just signed a 2-year, up to $24 million deal with the Carolina Panthers. And I was looking at the open market right now. Bud Dupree, the former Falcon, he's 31. He's out there. Kyle Van Noy, if we're looking for 6 degrees of Brian Flores connections, former Patriot and Dolphin, Kyle Van Noy. Most recently, I think, with the Ravens on a 1-year deal. He's out there. Now he's 33, so what does that mean? But then Randy Gregory, who's kind of bounced around a little bit from Dallas, I think, to Denver, and then ultimately, most recently, maybe with the Niners. He's 31 years old, and he's out there. Is there anything on your shopping list non-QB related? And I know what the answer is from my standpoint, because there's a left guard that's still in the market, but I see some of these names, and I'm thinking, if we got the cash, I don't know what the credit card balance is on the free agent credit card that Kwesi's been swiping left and right.
And we got to make sure we hit all deadlines.
And we got to hit all deadlines.
That's in vogue.
Cross all T's, dot all I's, etc. I just, at some point, can we deviate from the quarterback spot and think at all in terms of maybe some names out there, some people that could help complement this roster?
Mm-hmm.
There's a real chance the Vikings do not end up with a quarterback in the first round. That they don't have a trading partner, or
there's
the price
a real
is
good
too
chance?
high. Yeah,
I wouldn't say real good.
I think if you ask me right now, do the Vikings leave the first round with a quarterback? I would be on no.
Right, I would be on 65% yes.
Yeah, and I would be about 40% yes. So we're not that far apart, but we're a little farther apart. At pick 11. The Vikings will likely have their choice of edge rushers from this draft.
Right.
The whole class, it is in all probability, none will be taken before 11. And it's very possible 10 of the first 11 picks will be offense this year. It's a very fantasy-friendly draft. The Vikings would have their choice of edge rushers, guys going in this relative ballpark. Florida State's Jared Verse. We may want to become versed in Jared Verse.
Always.
UCLA's Leatu Latu is a possibility if you can get past the fact that he retired due to medical reasons.
Right.
But still looks very promising. Texas's Byron Murphy, which would give us 2 Byron Murphys on the same team. Which is very, very enticing. All of those guys potentially...
Confusing for the Vox.
Very confusing for the Vox.
Stop it,
Although
both
maybe it
of you. I don't want to
simplifies
think
things.
about it.
Although I'd like to think you could tell them apart by, like, the number and the extra 100 pounds. Anyway, at pick 11, the Vikings could take their
It's not
first.
about that. It's radio, and it's saying of a name, and people getting it confused. So stop it.
We'd have to come up with a nickname for one of the two Byron Murphys to distinguish them on the radio. Pick 23, Vikings could also go defense here. Again, if they don't go quarterback in the first round, defense would make sense because the offense is way ahead of where the Vikings defense is. And then you go cornerback. Because the team's they're equally desperate at D end and cornerback.
I don't think Nordo and I could. He just got back from vacation.
I know.
The chair's broken. He fell down. He forgot to print stuff and left his wallet at his house.
Yeah, we got to forgive him.
It's all
So
true,
let's low key hush and be quiet with the fact that I don't think we could hate this anymore.
I'm not enjoying this at all.
I'm
but
not either.
Something changed while he was in the petrified forest.
Trying to make it a bad Friday.
He is trying to make it a bad Friday when it's supposed to be a sad but good Friday.
It's the goodest of all good ever to Good Fridays.
Indeed, it is.
Thank you.
It's someone called it a great Friday.
Yeah.
The reality is, I know that we want to think that we're going to reboot this. We're going to simply reboot the quarterback position.
They're taking a quarterback in the first round. The only way they don't is if somebody just absolutely is like, we ain't budging unless we get way, way, way too much. But you know what? With the way negotiations have gone in pro sports of late, well, that quite possibly could help.
Well, the anti-Vike
happen.
The anti-Vike has to execute a Herschel Walker-like trade.
Yeah.
In this case, it would be draft equity mostly.
That's Sean Payton.
To outbid the capital advantage of Kwesi to get to at least 4.
Kwesi got you a second first round pick while you were gone.
Yeah, he didn't do that for Jared Verse, Charch.
He did it for you.
Because you hate Darnold. You hate Sam Darnold.
Charch doesn't get
Kwesi
it.
heard you talking about it. And he's like, I got to get the second first round pick. Because Paul Charchian hates Sam Darnold, so I need some flexibility in the draft so that I can calm the Friday co-host.
Yeah, you just got back, okay? So welcome back. I mean, you're not
good to see
you're
you.
Playing slow, but that's okay. Yeah, in fact, speaking of quarterbacks, let's hear the thoughts of Kevin O'Connell from Tuesday's 9 to noon show on Messrs. McCarthy, May, and Daniels. And see what you think about what he said, okay? You're listening to the Friday Football Feast at FM 100.3 KFAN.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. And as you heard, quarterbacks, the conversation, the A-topic for the Vikings into the draft, as just about everybody on the planet except for Paul Charchian believes that the goal and the focus is a QB in round 1.
No, wait. That is a mischaracterization.
Uh-huh.
The team, they would like to come out with a quarterback.
Okay.
You have to have somebody to trade with. There may not be a pathway to a quarterback.
He's doing it again.
Yes, he is, and that's fine. But you know what? We appreciate it because every group needs the guy that plans for the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
That's what Charch is for.
Understood.
And he can knock us down to reality once in a while, and we appreciate him for it. But back, let's get back on track here. Is Kevin O'Connell joined PA at 9 to noon earlier this week. You weren't in the mix. You were checking out Tetons and Zions and Petrified Forests and such. So we had KOC on Charch. And in each of 3 questions, Kevin O'Connell addressed his thoughts on each of 3 quarterbacks. And we'll start with Drake May. Take it away, PA.
Did Josh McCown tell you about Drake May from their days together at that Charlotte high school?
Yeah, Josh and Drake have a previous relationship that's a really, really good one. Josh has known Drake for a long time. I think, when we talked to him at the combine, Drake was more interested in talking about, a potential, a foul call that Josh McCown had on him when they were playing pickup basketball back in the day. So the immediate controversy picked up right where they left off in previous conversations about that as soon as he walked in the door. But we had a blast talking to Drake. I know Josh, feels really strongly about Drake. He feels strongly about, his relationship with him and maybe where Drake projects as an NFL quarterback. It's been fun diving into this process. I know myself, having gotten to know some of these guys previously through their tape from 2022, and then seeing what they were able to do, building upon that in 23 and where they may project. But I think another cool factor, one of the things I thought about with bringing Josh, to the Twin Cities, I think he's going to end up having a chance to be one of the better quarterback coaches in the National Football League, not only because of his playing career and what he meant to so many quarterback rooms, but he's got such a unique perspective and how to relate to players and communicate with guys. Can't wait to see Josh get to work with our guys. But also, PA, think about it, he just went through, a process in Carolina last year of potentially trading up and acquiring a quarterback of the future type player and getting to bring that guy in the building. And we're now able to, not having gone through it with Josh, but we're able to lean on that experience, the things that worked really well, the things throughout the evaluation process maybe he would have done differently, and we can then apply that to our process here in Minnesota. And couldn't say enough to you this morning about the great start Josh is off to, and where the big time part of the process he's going to play throughout the rest of the spring.
Speculation.
Now, Coach Jaden Daniels likes to get out there on the move. What is he best suited on the move like Jalen Hurts, or like how can he handle a pocket offense?
No, I think he absolutely can. I think he's proven that. When you really dive into his tape, that's one of the exciting things about a player like Jaden Daniels is, clearly he's a guy that when he does take off, and a lot of times his best, most impactful plays running the football come as an extension of passing plays where, he's gone through a progression. He's exhausted 1 to 2 to 3. And then with really good technique and fundamentals, ball security, able to climb up and out of the pocket. And really when he takes off from that point, there's really no angle that's safe for a defender because of the speed that he has in the open field. Clearly he's going to have to be smart about when he has the football in his hands, not being the biggest, strongest guy in the world. He's going to have to be smart about it to maintain his ability to stay on the field. He knows that, he's proven that in his Heisman Trophy season that he's got the ability to do that. He's definitely an exciting prospect, and he goes, whether you're talking about Jaden or some of these other guys in the draft, I think those are the types of things. Each guy kind of has, maybe different strengths and things that they're going to hang their hat on, but all of them, I do think when you're talking about some of these guys at the top of the draft and where that line is drawn, we'll kind of keep that between the folks inside the walls of our building and for right now. But I can tell you I'm very excited about not only Jaden, but the potential of a lot of these guys that will be in the mix to maybe become Minnesota Vikings.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
And J.J. McCarthy?
I see a guy that, maybe he didn't have the type of volume, PA, that some of the other guys in the draft had as throwers. And I think that's kind of been talked about a lot, but I don't know how valid that is, just because some of the other volume of attempts that you see from other players in the draft, they might just be bubble screens and RPOs and just kind of spitting the ball out as extensions of the run game. So really when you start talking about something beyond the stat sheet, beyond the box score, I think you can dive into the tape and see some things that J.J. McCarthy did that maybe some of the other guys in the draft didn't do. He did play under center. He did play in a world where he was part of a strong run game that they tried to marry the run in the past with play action and keepers. And then I think when you turn on J.J.'s third down tape, you see some pretty high level production. And what does that normally lead to? Winning football games. When you run the football and you have a quarterback that can execute at a high level on third down, you sustain drives, you have a chance to push the ball into the opponent's side of the field and eventually down into the red zone where you hope to come away with touchdowns and not field goals. But JJ's got some really strong tape. He clearly has a makeup of a guy that's won a national championship. I think he's lost, I don't know what the exact number is, maybe 3 games since he was about 12 years old. So this guy's a winner. And there's a lot to really continue to dive into on a prospect like JJ. Looking forward to spending some time with him over the next few days and really getting to know him, but also importantly, letting him get to know us and what potentially, just like some of the other quarterbacks, hopefully get a feel for is that if my name gets called by the Minnesota Vikings, that's a really positive thing for me based upon the play caller, the head coach, the offensive weapons, the offensive staff, Brian Flores coaching the defense with some really good players on that side of the ball. And, oh, by the way, the best fan base in the National Football League.
Pretty exciting.
Why don't you put your pants back on, Slappy?
And shockingly candid. I mean, he gave some legitimate breakdowns on players. Like, Spielman would never have given us all that. Never. And Zim never talked about guys like that either. I was bracing for a lot of the month before the draft. We're giving you nothing. But there was some legitimate breakdowns in there. Tip of the hat to KOC for playing it straight.
Indeed. And when we return, we'll get your thoughts on those quarterbacks and some minutia and or nuggets of things dropped by the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. You're listening
In your face, Milwaukee.
to 9 to noon.